Welcome back to the next installment of the LLR Corporate Education Program. I'm Chris Brady.
And I'm Orrin Woodward.
And today we're going to talk about how you see the other people around you and how you see the world and its impact on your ability to lead other people.
Imagine going to a 3D movie, and as they're handing out the 3D glasses, you say, oh, I don't need those glasses. I've got a set of eyes. I'll just watch the screen. And you go in there and everybody else puts on these glasses and they're oohing and ahhing, and you're like watching the screen like, I'm not seeing it. I'm not seeing it. And it's finally you go back out and you grab a pair of those glasses, walk back in and put on the glasses, and the whole movie opens up. What you saw previously didn't make any sense, but now with the 3D glasses on, you've got things jumping out of the screen at you, and you're getting a whole new look, even though it's exactly the same movie. In a similar fashion, your life is greatly affected by the life lens you're wearing. All of us are wearing, so to speak, a pair of glasses. And whether what type of lens you're wearing on those glasses determines what you see and what you get out of life. So for example, one of the first levels is the victim lens. You can put that lens on and everything you see in life is, woe is me, man, I'm a victim of this, and it's so-and-so's fault, and the reason this didn't happen, it's so-and-so's fault. And you can play the blame game with life. And when you play the blame game, you really don't produce much because you're constantly blaming everybody else, and whoever's responsible is the one that has to change. And since you're not responsible for your life, you typically won't change your life. And in leadership, that's a no-no, because if you're not responsible, you can't change it. So we teach right away, we want to get you out of that victim lens and start moving you up. Imagine these lenses kind of like layers. You're starting to build up, you're climbing up a mountain of lenses. You start from the victim lens, and then you want to climb up, and the next lens you'd hit would be the follower lens. And this is a major improvement because now you do recognize that you're responsible. You may not have all the answers, but you start looking for people that do have better answers in life and saying, man, they're producing better results. Why don't I follow some of the same techniques or approaches that they're using? And you move to that follower lens. So now you're seeing the world differently than you did as a victim lens, and you start producing better results. But if you really want to start climbing, you're going to have to move to the next level. That's the performer lens. That's where, yes, you look around and you see what other people are doing, but you also think for yourself and you say, yep, I can see where they're going, I can see where they're going, but I think I want to go this way. And you start plan, do, check, and adjust. You actually start a process where you try something and then you see the results and you make adjustments as necessary. And the performer lens, you start to produce some really good results in life. But there's even a higher level than the performer lens, and that's what this whole subject matter is about, and that's moving to the leadership lens. That's where not only are you going in a certain direction, but you're looking around and building a team, building a community, building a group that you're going to take to that destination together, because individuals can accomplish some things, individuals can grow, but it's only teams that can explode. Only teams can you do something that truly puts a dent in the universe, so to speak. And so that takes the leadership lens. So one of the first questions to ask is, where are you at? What lens are you wearing in life? And so you can identify where you're starting and then start focusing on the steps that we'll cover in this series, helping you move up all the way up to the leadership lens.
I think this concept of the lenses that you wear have a huge impact on the achievement that you can actually accomplish is very important, because it helps us realize that it's not so much how we look, it's how we see. And looking through those lenses at the world is certainly a big consideration. And then let's bring that down a little bit and talk about how we see other people and how we see ourselves. Now, there are all types of great programs out there to help expose people to the concept of personality temperaments. It seems that we are all at birth given a mixture of these temperaments or these personality characteristics that tend to be dominant and subdominant and maybe non-existent in some cases. And a very simple way to kind of cut through all the different terminology is to just consider a cross, just a simple plus sign, where at the top of the plus is task-oriented. And at the bottom of the plus is people-oriented. And those are kind of opposites. We tend to be either task-oriented predominantly or people-oriented predominantly. And then the horizontal member then goes from introverted, let's say on the left, to extroverted on the other side. And in those four quadrants that result from that plus sign, People have given different names to it. The ones we like to use are the funny words. The choleric word, which describes people who are extroverted and they're task-oriented. There's a lot of things we can do to describe someone of the choleric temperament. This is someone who's driven, outspoken, maybe a little bit bullheaded, usually type A personality, high achiever, very confident, very charismatic. But they can also be a little cold-hearted and a little abrupt and a little offensive and leave children crying behind them in the background. If you go on a diagonal down from them, that word we assign is phlegmatic. This is someone who is just about as opposite from the choleric as they can be because they're people-oriented, not task-oriented. They're introverted, not extroverted, and they're very peaceful. They're very steady. They get along well with others. They're very dependable. They're very rock solid, and they take a long time to heat up and a long time to cool down. Their mood swings aren't very rapid. They're not very high or low, and everybody likes a phlegmatic. On the other hand, they may struggle a little bit with internal motivation. They may struggle with outward demonstrations of enthusiasm, and they may have trouble coming off in public speaking presentations with any amount of excitement or verve. Well, that leaves us two other categories. If you go to the upper left-hand corner between task-oriented and introverted, you're going to get the melancholy. Now, the melancholy is a word, it has negative connotations, but it's certainly not a negative temperament. The melancholy person is very detailed, very organized, very methodical, very analytical, understands the details and systematic thinking very well. Sometimes, though, they don't relate that well with other people, and sometimes their grasp of numbers and details can leave others behind. Well, the final one, if you go to the bottom right-hand quadrant, that one is sanguine. The sanguine is extroverted and people-oriented, and usually they love a party, and they love to tell jokes, and they love conversation, and they move their hands around a lot, and they're very excitable, but a lot of times they have trouble focusing. Squirrel! And they get off track quite easily, and they might not have the most follow-through and get the jobs done. Well, what we're taught, and when people have really dug into this, is that none of us are just all one temperament. Most of us have a dominant one and then a kind of a minor one. And really, truth be told, we have a mix of all four in various degrees. And we're all complex organisms. We're all very unique. But this simple, very fun mapping system allows you to put on a lens that can kind of help explain a human interaction, that can maybe help clarify for you why that person is behaving that way. They didn't really wake up that morning and say, I think I'd like to make so-and-so have a bad day by behaving thus. No, it's how they're wired. It's their temperament, and they're built a little bit differently than you. And so understanding, even in a rudimentary fashion, these basic temperament categories helps you relate to other people much more easily and, quite frankly, helps you understand yourself a little bit better too. And it can help you in your marriage, it can help you in all kinds of personal relationships too, but especially at work where you're trying to be productive and influential among all types of combinations of people and temperaments and backgrounds. And this can kind of help make sense of the fog a little bit and help you be more productive and more harmonious as you do your work.
The good news is that any one of those four temperaments can be a top leader because any one of those four can develop the right belief system. You see, those lens effect, all of the different lenses starting from victim all the way up to leader, all come from certain beliefs. As you change your beliefs, you also change the lens that you're wearing. Now, I'll give you an example from myself back when I used to run cross country in high school. I was a follower lens all the way. I had a certain belief of who I was, and I was the second best runner on the team, and it didn't matter rain or shine, whether I was feeling good or not, I always took second place. And that's what I did. And I had this other belief. I had this belief that I was the second best runner and that freshmen never beat seniors. Here I am, the senior that's the second place finisher all the time on our team, and there's this freshman kid, and this freshman kid happened to be the coach's son, and he was always the third place finisher, and I had it in my head that the freshman never beats the senior. Well, we come to one of the top events of the year. It's the Genesee County All-Star event. All of the teams from Genesee County gathered together. At the time, it was almost 1 million people county, and have all the teams running. And sure enough, we start out as a beautiful day, but I just can't run with all those guys. I'm a follower, I'm not a leader, and I can't run at that level. And I start out, and sure enough, my first mile split time, they yell it out, the coach yells it out, and it's like, it's terrible. It's one of my worst split times for the whole year. I'm like, oh no. Yeah, well, there it is. See, I'm just a follower. You know, I'm still in second place though. They're first place runners ahead of me, and I'm in second place on my team. I'm not even close in the whole contest. And sure enough, after the second mile, my legs are hurting. I'm barely breathing. I'm like, oh, I'm just having a tough race. And he yells out my worst 2-mile split time of the whole year in this top race. And I'm like, well, I guess it's just not meant to be. I guess I'm just having this terrible race. And that's how it would have ended. My belief system would have just carried me, and I would have just had a bad race, except for the freshman. I actually didn't see the freshman. I just heard him. I heard him breathing. And then I heard him say this. He said, Orrin, you're just jogging. Today, I'm gonna beat you. And oh, when I heard that, it made me so mad. I'm like, what? Freshmen don't beat seniors. Now, typically in a 3.1 mile race, you don't start your final sprint with 1.1 miles to go. Because I only ran about 4 or 5 steps after the 2-mile time where I was beating myself up. And then the freshman says that, and I take off. I'm not talking about starting running faster. I'm literally talking about in a full sprint. I start sprinting to the finish line with 1.1 miles to go. I started running so fast, I wore contacts at the time, that I was running so fast, the wind blowed through, and I was so focused, I was running, the wind blew through, my contacts dried out and flipped over. I was literally blind as a bat without my contacts. I couldn't see a thing. Thankfully, it was the last mile and it was a big race. There was a crowd of people on both sides, so I knew kind of to stay between the crowd, and I'm running as fast as I can, passing runners like crazy, caught up to the first place runner that I'd never beat. I catch up to him and I'm running. He says, you'll never finish at that pace. And I just keep running past him. Then I start hearing everybody scream, look at that kid run, look at that kid run. And I'm thinking, the freshman's catching me. So I started running even faster. I was going crazy. I literally sprinted, ran a 5:02 last mile, and ended up winning first place or first team all Genesee County that year. Blew away my best time ever, 16:30 something. And I'm like, after the race, I'm like, what happened? How did I do that? It's not like all of a sudden my legs got stronger. I just run the worst 2-mile split time of my life. It's not like my lungs got bigger. I'll tell you what happened. My lens changed. My belief window changed. I had this belief that I was the second best runner on the team, but I had this other belief that freshmen don't beat seniors. And because this freshman was trying to beat me, that moved me off of my follower and moved me up to the performer lens, where I said, if he beats me, they'll carry me off this golf course. And I just started to sprint. And the good news there is, I didn't understand at the time, but as I started studying leadership, I realized, change your belief system, you change your lens, you change your life. You want to be a leader, you can be a leader, because you can change your beliefs. One of the first and most important beliefs to change is, well, I'm not a leader. Just because you're not a leader today doesn't mean you can't be a leader. You can change because you can change the lens you're wearing and see things differently, and therefore lead.
The takeaway from this session is how you see yourself, how you see others, and how you see the world is critical. Remember, it's not how you look, it's how you see.
Enjoy your next session of material as you launch your leadership revolution.